Today I am here to do the Nutcracker Book Tag. Hello book friends, I'm Jen and welcome to my reading life and happy Vlogmas. And I am back today with another tag video. I was actually tagged by the lovely Miriam at Miriam Elizabeth Reads to do this tag, and when I saw all of the questions, I thought this would be a really fun video to do during Vlogmas. And here we are. This is an original tag created by Words and Other Malarkey, and I will have her account and her original video listed in the description box below, along with Miriam's video. So please go and check those out because they are all very lovely. Let us just get into the questions. I think there are 9 questions in total, and I have 9 different books to share with you for each of the tag questions. I do have to say that I love the Nutcracker. I grew up going with my mom to see the Nutcracker Ballet. We went almost every Christmas from the time I was about 8 or 9 through high school. I've seen many different productions of it. It's one of my favorite ballets. I was a dancer growing up, and in junior high school, we did some selections from the Nutcracker for our recital one year, and so I got to partake in the Spanish dance from the Nutcracker, and that was great fun. But I digress into the ballet. Let us actually get into the Nutcracker book tag questions. I have the questions on my laptop, so I will be referring to those as we go along. And the first question is, the Nutcracker takes place on Christmas Eve. Choose a book that takes place during Christmas time or that gives you those magical Yuletide vibes. There are so many books I could have chosen for this particular question, but I decided to go with a book that I haven't talked about on here and that I think makes a lovely Christmas read and is one that is probably familiar to most people, though you've probably seen the movie and haven't read the book. And that is Miracle on 34th Street. This is by Valentine Davies. And this is actually a book that is based on the screenplay from the movie. So Valentine Davies wrote the screenplay for Miracle on 34th Street. And then because it was such a huge success, they turned it into a book, or they asked Valentine Davies to write a book based on the screenplay. So if you have seen Miracle on 34th Street, you know exactly what you're getting in this story. But I think it's actually really lovely to read it in book format. I purchased this book a couple of years ago and read it in the days leading up to Christmas that year, and it was just lovely. It's very short. You can read it in a couple of sittings, and it was just a delightful way to revisit a well-known and well-loved story. And I think this book is just a charming addition to any Christmas book lover's bookshelf. Question 2 is, in the ballet, an epic battle takes place between the Nutcracker and the Mouse King. Choose a book that has great action and or adventure. And for this, I decided to pick a mystery that has some both wintry vibes to it and a little bit of a thrilling adventure, and that is Dead Men Don't Ski by Patricia Moyes. This is the first book in the Henry Tibbetts mystery series. And I've read a couple other Henry Tibbetts mysteries over the years. Didn't really remember anything about them, but my mom was talking about Patricia Moyes and reminded me of this series, and so I picked up the first book, and I think I'm going to read my way through the series over the next few years. I really enjoyed this one, and in this first book, Henry and his wife are on vacation, and they have gone on a skiing vacation. I believe they're in the Swiss Alps, I want to say, and of course, they go there even though he's on vacation. He is still a police detective, and so when a murder happens, he gets involved in it. There is lots of action-y skiing sequences, and just sort of being up in that mountaintop has a sort of adventure feel to it because it's cold, it is snowy, there is a ski lift that doesn't work all of the time, so parts of the day the hotel is kind of cut off from the rest of the village that it's near, and I really enjoyed this. And if you're looking for a wintertime mystery that's got a little bit of adventure and action in it, then I think Dead Men Don't Ski is an excellent choice. Question 3 is, the Nutcracker wouldn't be the same without Tchaikovsky's iconic score. Choose a book that involves music, musicians, or dancers. And again, many books I could have chosen for this, but I decided to pick one that I haven't talked about on here, and I think it makes a wonderful wintertime read because it is very gothic, and that is The Phantom of the Opera by Gaston Leroux. And if you have only seen or heard of the Andrew Lloyd Webber musical version, whether you've seen the stage play or the movie version of Phantom of the Opera, you are definitely missing out if you have not read the book. I read this book for the Gothic novel class that I took in college. That was one of my very favorite classes of all time. It was so wonderful, and I was so surprised at how immersive the Phantom of the Opera book is, being down in sort of the Paris catacombs and underneath the opera house, and the sort of nefarious feeling of the Phantom and what he's up to. It is wonderfully evocative, and I really think it's highly readable. I don't think you should be put off by the fact that it is French and that it's translated. I think it is a wonderful book, full of atmosphere, full of music and opera, and I don't think you can go wrong if you enjoy Gothic novels. Don't miss out on The Phantom of the Opera. Question 4. The ballet changes locations when Clara and the Nutcracker travel from her bedroom to the magical land of sweets. Choose a book that transports the characters to a magical or unfamiliar realm. Think portal fantasy, though not exclusively. I am not a big fantasy reader. I am not drawn to fantasy books necessarily, though I do have to say that on occasion I do enjoy middle grade fantasy. It's not something I always want to read, but I very much enjoyed Harry Potter, things that have sort of magical worlds. For some reason, in the middle grade format, that just works for me. I think one of the things I don't love about fantasy is sort of the epicness of those stories, that they seem to just go on and on and on without end. And I think I like my stories to be wrapped up a little more neatly in a bow. And I think middle grade does that because children expect stories to have beginnings, middles, and ends. So even if it's a series, it is going to wrap itself up in some way. In a middle grade series that I read a couple of years ago and just binge read the first 3 books in the series, book 4 is still not out. I'm waiting along with everyone else for it, and that is the Nevermore series by Jessica Townsend. This is book 1, The Trials of Morrigan Crow. Morrigan Crow is born on Eventide, and she is cursed that on her 11th birthday, she is supposed to die, and that's terrible. But on the eve of her 11th birthday, a man named Jupiter North appears and takes her away to a secret magical land, Nevermore, of which she has known nothing up until this point. And so she is thrust into this world. It does have reminiscences of Harry Potter in that respect, where this person who grew up in what they thought was just a normal, non-magical world is thrust into a world filled with magic. And we follow along with Morrigan as she learns all about this new magical world and her place in it. And she is a fantastic female character. I absolutely loved Morrigan. She felt like a very real little girl pushed into this very fantastical world where she just wasn't sure of herself or her footing, and I really felt for her and was along with her on the entire ride that she was going on. I definitely think book 1 was the strongest book in the series for me, but I am definitely going to be continuing on with this. It's been a long time since book 3 came out. I believe Jessica Townsend, I think I heard that she had a baby, and that definitely put a wrench in her finishing book 4, but I believe it's coming out either late 2025 or early 2026. I'll put that here on this, but I'm very excited to continue on with this series. And if you enjoy sort of magical, fantastical middle grade books, I think this series you cannot go wrong with. Question 5. Upon arrival in the land of sweets, their first destination is an enchanted snowy forest. Choose a book that has a snowy, wintry atmosphere. And for this, I am going to pick another middle grade book actually, and one that I just finished reading a week ago or so, and that is The Long Winter by Laura Ingalls Wilder. Oh my goodness, is this ever a snowy, wintry book? This is a bit like the winter that would never end. In this entry in the Ingalls family saga, we find that there has been prediction that there's going to be a very, very long winter, the worst winter in, I think, something like 20 or 30 years. And so the Ingalls family move into the town that they are homesteading near, just in case this winter is as bad as it is expected to be, and it most certainly is. They start having blizzards, I believe, in October, and they really don't let up until I think almost March. And it's just 2 or 3 days of blizzard, a couple of days of no blizzard, and then another blizzard comes in, and just this kind of repeated heavy snowstorms. And, you know, in the middle of the prairie, when people were initially settling there, it was difficult to get goods to them, and the trains are stopped because of the blizzards, and so nothing is getting through. No food, no coal, no wood, nothing is getting through, and their supplies are getting very scarce. And this one was actually really tense. I mean, there have been some tense scenes in some of the other Little House books, but ooh, this one really, that winter, it was a hard one. Again, I never would have survived on the prairie. That is the thing I have learned from reading the Little House on the Prairie books, but this was the perfect book to read in December or in January. But it does, there is a Christmas scene in here, but again, it goes from about October to, I believe, March. So any time in the winter months would be a lovely time to read The Long Winter. And boy, was it long. Question 6. Clara and the Nutcracker present themselves before the court of the Land of Sweets. Choose a book that involves a royal court setting or that follows royal characters. And for this one, I'm going to pick a historical fiction that I really enjoyed. It's been a few years since I read this one, but my pick is I Was Anastasia by Ariel Lawhon. And this is about the Romanov family, and it is a dual timeline historical fiction. And in the first timeline, obviously, we are following the Romanovs. I believe it starts right before they are captured and taken to be executed. And then we are also following, in a later time period, a woman who is claiming to be Anastasia Romanov. And the question is she or is she not? And I think Ariel Lawhon, she is a fantastic historical fiction writer. I have enjoyed everything that I have read by her. I haven't read her most recent book, but I have read, I think, just about everything else that she has written, and she is a fantastic writer, and I was so engaged in this one. The thing I think she does so well, she makes me really interested in the subject matter that she covers in her historical fiction novels, and it makes me want to deep dive more into those subjects. Sometimes I do actually do that. Sometimes I don't. I would love to read more about the Romanovs. If anyone else has other, whether it is nonfiction or fictional books about the Romanovs that you have enjoyed, please leave those in the comments because I would really like to read more about them. I find the Romanovs very, very fascinating. So that is a book about royalty that I definitely recommend. Question 7. One of the most memorable parts of the ballet are the series of dances representing different countries: Spain, Arabia, China, Russia, etc. Choose a book that takes place in a country far away from your own. Again, so many books I could have chosen for this. I am going to pick a book that I don't hear often talked about. It has somewhat middling reviews on Goodreads, which I find really surprising because when I read this book, I absolutely loved it. I was so engrossed, could not put it down, and that book is American Spy by Lauren Wilkinson. This book is set in a few different locations. It is partly set in the US, which of course is where I live, but most of it is set in Burkina Faso in Africa. And then there is some of it that also takes place on the island of Martinique. And This is about a woman who goes to work for, I think, both the CIA and the FBI. She is a Black American woman and she is a spy in Burkina Faso. And the man whose name is escaping me, who is in power there, the Americans are really unsure of him, unhappy with him, and she is sent in there to obviously get information. And I found this to be really, really gripping. I really liked our main character. A lot of reviews said they thought this was slow. Maybe I was just in the right mood for it, but this one just really hit the spot for me, and I highly recommend it. I think it would make a perfect summertime read, so this is maybe the wrong time to be talking about this book, but if you're very cold and snowed in and you want to go someplace really, really warm in place of the cold, snowy place where you are right now, then definitely pick up American Spy. If you enjoy spy novels, then I definitely think this one is a winner. Question 8. However, most people know these dances by the various treats they represent: chocolate, coffee, tea, peppermint, etc. Choose a book that involves food, baking, or cooking. Again, many I could have chosen from here, but I am going to mention one that, again, I just read this a couple of years ago and loved it, and that is Taste by Stanley Tucci, My Life Through Food. That's basically all you need to know. I love Stanley Tucci. I have loved him as an actor for many years, and it was really, really lovely to read about his life, especially through food and through his Italian heritage. And definitely, if you are going to read this book, listen to him read it on audio. It is just fantastic. Definitely one of my very favorite celebrity memoirs. And I actually have his second book, which just came out this year. I think it's called A Year in Food, something like that. And I have that one on hold from the library, so I am waiting for it to come in, and maybe I'll get to that one in January. But this is a delightful food memoir, and don't read this while hungry is all I can say. It will definitely make you want to have a big bowl of pasta. And the final question, question 9. At the end of the ballet, the Sugar Plum Fairy and her prince dance an achingly romantic pas de deux. Choose a book that has a beautiful, slow burn romance. For this one, I'm actually going to pick a trilogy of books that I read this year that I know I have talked about a lot, but I just feel like you can't go wrong with this trilogy, and it definitely has a slow burn romance in it, and that is the Chadwick Family Trilogy by Marcia Willett, which is Looking Forward, Holding On, and Winning Through. This is such a wonderful family saga, and there is a romance between two of the characters. I will say a little bit of a caveat that these two characters do happen to be cousins, so you've got to set a little bit of that aside if you have any kind of preconceived notions about cousins not being in relationships with one another. But aside from that, this relationship between these two characters is, first of all, such a slow burn. They go through lots and lots of things before we may or may not see them together at the end. I'm not going to spoil it for you. So definitely read the trilogy so you can find out what happens to them. And I just absolutely adored this. If you enjoyed books like the Cazalet Chronicles, the Shell Seekers, other family sagas along those lines, then you definitely need to pick up the Chadwick Family Chronicles. It's absolutely wonderful. One of my very favorite family saga trilogies of all time. And that is it. That is the Nutcracker Tag Challenge. Thank you so much to Miriam for tagging me for this. This was a really fun challenge to do. It was fun to think of some books to answer these questions with that I haven't thought of for actually quite a long time. So that was fun to pull out the archives of books that I've read in years past and bring them all to you here today. I know that I should tag a few people here, but it is so close to Christmas, and I am not sure if anybody else will have time to do this tag, and this feels like a very Christmassy tag that you want to do in the lead up to the Christmas season. So if you are watching this and you have a YouTube channel and you need a video idea between now and Christmas, then please consider yourself tagged. And actually, I am going to tag one specific person, and that is my lovely friend Rebecca from Rebecca of Wilson Hill. She is my co-host for the Cozy Reader Book Club. Rebecca, if you have time and you want to do this, consider yourself tagged. Otherwise, consider yourself tagged for next Christmas season. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please hit that like button and subscribe if you aren't already subscribed. I would love to have you join my bookish community, and I will be back with another Vlogmas video very, very soon. Bye!